The Blackhawks fans, welcome to another edition of the Four Feathers podcast. I am Ron Luce, joined this evening by Tony Marchese, who was in attendance for the Blackhawks' first win of the Centennial season. We are back, season 7, episode 5. This one is Blackhawks' first Centennial win. We're going to get into it here on this Monday night. Tony, vibes look high on your end over there. How you feeling?
Vibes are great. We're still drinking victory beers. First victory beers of the Centennial season, might I have you, Ron. It feels great to drink victory beers. It feels even better when they're the first victory beers of a team's Centennial season. And that's sort of the theme the Blackhawks are going with this year. You know, you've been around 100 years. It's a long time. It's a really long time. And I'm happy to have been in attendance for the Blackhawks' first Centennial victory of the season. The most important win in Chicago tonight, if you ask me.
Take it easy, Tone. Take it easy. We all know where your football alliances reside. At least they reside on the right side of town when it comes to the sport of hockey. But Tony, yes, it is an important win for the Blackhawks. And I take it a step further. So not only is it the Centennial victory, which is still a heck of a milestone in its own right, but it's also the first victory of the Jeff Blashill era in a new era of what we expect to be better Blackhawks hockey. And it has been better, even though the 0-2-1 start didn't look great. It's been improved. There is a noticeable improvement. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. But now they come out tonight against a very respectable Utah Mammoth group and get the job done with a 3-1 win at the United Center that you were able to enjoy in person, my friend. Before we get into all the nuts and bolts, though, I want to remind everybody, of course, like, subscribe, hit the bell button over at the On Tap Sports YouTube channel so you know when all of our shows go live, including us here at Four Feathers, because we're on a late one tonight. Bears on Tap was live a little bit earlier, and all of our other great shows will be live over the course of the seasons and off seasons, respectively. And we appreciate any reviews and hopefully 5-star ratings wherever you listen to us in podcast. You can follow us along as well at Four Feathers Pod on all the socials. Tony, let's get into it. Hawks win 3-1. Ilya Mikheyev, 2 goals in this game. Andre Burakovsky gets a goal. His is ultimately the game winner. You were in person, sir. You felt the pace with your own 2 eyes. There was no television needed for you. Initial reactions, gut feeling of how this team played tonight, and ultimately came away with their first W.
Yeah, you know what? It was actually a pretty slow start for the Blackhawks in comparison to what we've seen so far in the 2025-26 Chicago Blackhawks campaign. First period was a bit of a sleeper, if I do say so myself. Not a lot happening for the Hawks. I was also in attendance for Saturday's game, Ron, for the home opener. And that game had a lot of everything. This game, at least for the first period and a half, had a lot of nothing. There were some, back and forths, but nothing really to write home about. So I was actually a little impressed at the fact that the Hawks took a low energy game and were able to walk away with a win. I know that sounds counterintuitive a little bit to the we're not going to take any shit Blackhawks, because I still think they played to that mantra tonight. But they played a little bit more of a controlled game. They didn't exactly lead the game in terms of offensive opportunities. But out of the, 4 games they've played so far, I'd say that was probably their best defensive effort. And Spencer Knight had himself a hell of a night in goal. Second start in a row. Jeff Blashill may be showing that he is the number 1 goalie, going back to him on just a day's rest.
Definitely.
It was a good game for the Hawks. And I liked a lot of what they did tonight, even though it didn't match the pace and intensity that you saw from some of the other games they played. They were able to command pretty much everything tonight outside of maybe shot chances. but it was a good Blackhawks game. It was solid victory. First one of the Centennial season. I'm going to take another swig of this beer because it's a victory beer. Centennial victory beer. We should drink 100 of these right now. Ron, how did you feel about it?
100 would be an impressive feat, sir, just for episode 5 of the season. But I tend to agree. Watching it at home, the first period was quite the snoozer, right? Not a lot of opportunities either way. The opportunities that were there weren't really high danger. They were easy to be seen by the goaltenders for the most part. And then I think in the second period, we saw the grit of this Blackhawks team. And I think that's kind of what I'm enjoying so much right now about the Jeff Blashill Blackhawks. There's a new sense of grit to this team that I think has been gone for a long time. I would almost argue
since the Q era.
I would
or
argue,
should we call it the Stanley Cup era teams? Maybe those teams didn't even have as much grit as this.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with it. Don't steal my thunder now. I would argue that you have to go back to the 2010 Hawks. Maybe the 2013 team was the last team that truly felt like it had some of that grit to it. And again, it's in its infancy. It needs to continue to evolve and grow over the course of the year, but you're feeling it, right? You put it perfectly. They were outchanced offensively in terms of shots on goal. The faceoff percentage was tipped in favor of Utah as well in this game, but the Blackhawks out-hit the living shit. They were the more physical hockey team. And I'll tell you what, man, I think physical play is, in any contact sport, one of the most important elements that'll never show up on the stat sheet. Hockey, it's a little easier, right? Obviously hits and things like that, but it's how you bring about those hits. Colton Dach had 7 hits tonight, Tone. 7 of 31 that this team had.
I like that. I think, in the grand scheme of things, I might say this a bunch of times this year. Colton Dach might be more impactful for the Chicago Blackhawks than his brother.
Depends how you define Kirby Dach's impact on the team, because it resulted in Frank Nazar. So,
on the ice.
Fair.
On the ice. I'm not looking at, Frank Nazar acquisition with this. I'm talking about on the ice play.
Yeah, I think it's a totally fair possibility that he is more impactful, and he's been huge. But you also mentioned Spencer Knight had a very controlled game in net. It felt like, yes, Utah was getting chances, but they were controlled chances that the Blackhawks were willing to risk because they know Spencer Knight's back there to make the save. They're not as run and gun. To your point, I think that's the perfect way to say it, is rather than running kind of the run and gun fun style, this new team, new young team with a new coach kind of feel to it in the first 3 games. This one was a little more systemic. This one was more, I saw more of the Jeff Blashill coaching tendencies show up, I think, in this game. Because after watching him explain his core fundamentals of hockey to USA hockey coaches and writing a subsequent article about it, shameless plug, you can find that over at ontapsportsnet.com. Just talk about what does Jeff Blashill bring to the table coming into the season as the Blackhawks' new head coach. And it was, you saw a lot of that center support, right? When the D got pucks in their own zone. Instead of the center breaking out over the blue line, he's in the zone with him. The short pass, the quick pass, using the wall, keeping things to the outside. That way, if you miss, you're not allowing high danger chances up the middle. And I think you saw a lot of that in tonight's game plan and how they kind of weathered the storm, really, it felt like, to victory. Ilya Mikheyev's first goal is kind of a gross, gritty, comes from below the goal line and tucks it home type play. And then Andre Burakovsky's, where it's a scrum on the wall. The Blackhawks win a board battle, another huge coaching point of Blashill's, winning board battles, controlling the puck on the boards. And they're able to kick it over to a wide open Andre Burakovsky, who buries it for what is ultimately the game-winning goal. I think that was the most exciting piece of this game tonight, was seeing a little bit more of those coaching points that Blashill has made public, his views on hockey, his coaching style, his pillars of how to play the game. You saw that being translated by all the players here tonight. Connor Bedard didn't have a shot on a goal, and they still won, Tony. How crazy is that?
Hey, when you can get support from guys that aren't your quote unquote star player and wind up with a victory, what more can you ask for? I'm serious. What more can you ask for? As a Chicago sports fan, what more can you ask for? Because you know that those opportunities are there, especially with Connor Bedard. Look at what's happened in the first 3 games. Bedard has looked like a different animal. I know we haven't had a chance to break down all of these games together, but Bedard looks really good so far in the early going. And then you have a night like tonight where maybe he's a little off. Other guys are able to step up. I was really impressed. The name that you just brought up, Ilya Mikheyev, tonight. Guy played like a man on fire. 2 goals. There was a couple of times on the penalty kill where he was able to bring the puck out of the zone. Maybe it doesn't count as a shot on net, but he ends up, taking a shot and winds up off a stick into the net. Now we've got a face off in the opponent's zone instead of it being in our own zone. Those are little things that win hockey games. He's not a star. No one is sitting here in Chicago right now talking about, I love Ilya Mikheyev.
I mean, we love it.
Yeah, I mean, you might, but I'm saying, like, if you're standing at the water cooler tomorrow in your workplace, most people are probably not talking about Ilya Mikheyev. They're probably talking about the Bears game. But Ilya Mikheyev won this game for the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. And that's the first win of their Centennial season. So, like, let's put a little fucking respect on that name. Ron, can we put some respect on Ilya Mikheyev's name tonight?
Yes, we can.
Here on Four Feathers Podcast?
Yes, we can, Tony. He's such an impressive player. Again, I think went really under the radar last season with a 20-goal campaign.
Yeah, I don't think he went under the radar if you listen to this show.
Not if you listen to this show.
But if you're a first-time listener, you might want to buy in on Ilya Mikheyev, is what I'm putting down here. Just a little bit.
He's a great role player, Tony, that I genuinely believe of this crop of guys who are going to be on expiring contracts, are aging in this league. I think he's the one guy that has the best chance of sticking around because of what he brings to the table, especially as that kind of third line winger. And I think he plays that really, really well and has proven that he can play up and down the lineup a little bit and put up points for you as well. So a great night indeed from Ilya Mikheyev. Tony, I want to ask you about this because this was an element of the game that I think went just totally missed in the world of social media because you mentioned the Bears were also playing a football game during the Blackhawks game tonight. I hate when that happens. It's really hard to watch both and give them the love and attention you want to give them. Power outage at the United Center tonight, Toad. What was that like, that little moment of watching the lights go out?
Oh, man. I just want to know who's responsible for the United Center's electricity bill. Because I am a fan of a team that likes to not pay their bills. And Jerry Reinsdorf also has a vested interest in the United Center. So I want to know if that was Jerry not paying the bill. And then, the Wirtz family got that power back on nice and quick. But I felt like it was the end of The Sopranos right there. Like everything just faded to black in a moment there. And the Hawks were about to break out on a rush, if I remember correctly. Not a great look, I guess. I don't know. Things happen. But wow, that was weird. That was so weird. I don't think anybody knew what was going on. My first thought was Jerry Reinsdorf didn't pay the ComEd bill. But it came back on quickly. I wonder if they were running on generators there for a little bit because They had that thing turn over pretty quick, but what could have been maybe a Blackhawks rush and a Connor Bedard. Maybe he gets a shot on goal. I don't even know if he was on the ice. I'm just making this up at this point. But you don't want to see the power go out
Never.
in the middle of a hockey game. That was weird, man. It was really weird.
Definitely one of those things on the betting slip that's like plus 25,000 odds to happen is power going out at a Chicago Blackhawks game at the United Center.
Maybe they should start offering those lines.
Somebody would bet it. Somebody would bet it.
I'm just trying to make the sports books more money, I guess. But
yeah, well,
yeah, you don't see that very often.
No, you do not. No, you do not. So that was
it was a weird feeling in the UC. I will say that.
Sure.
It was like slightly concerning.
Yeah. It's a hell of a moment, but as you mentioned, able to restore quickly. What could have been the Hawks did look like they were going to break out on a rush too. So that is kind of the bummer when it's all said and done with the power outage. But nonetheless, I think overall things went well tonight for the Blackhawks. Tone, I want to turn it back over to you here, though. We're going to get to some habitual segments here that I think are going to give some good content to kind of round out the show. But I want to give you another kind of a final chance about tonight's game, maybe something from tonight's game that connects to the first four games. Like, kind of what is a final thought to wrap up now on the first four games of this Blackhawks season for you, given the win tonight?
I thought it was important that they got themselves in the victory column tonight, Ronald. And the reason I say that is because they've played good enough to win hockey games. Maybe it didn't work out in the first 3 games. Give that to Pat Foley. 3 games. But you've gotta get yourself in the win column at some point. And tonight was a good night to do so. It wasn't the loudest crowd. It wasn't the electric crowd. The opening games, you've played in your opponent's home openers. You've played in your own home opener. There's been a lot of fanfare around the Blackhawks. Look at you play in your first game is against the defending Stanley Cup champions in Florida. You come up just a little bit short in that one. You go to Boston, can't get job done there in their home opener. And then you come home against the Montreal Canadiens and you have really a barn burner game and wind up just a little bit short in that one. It's a lot of adversity to face in your first 3 games. This is a very young team. You've got a new head coach. You've got, a lot of guys who are just starting out. There's Sam Rinzel, Artem Levchinov. You look at the back end of this team, and it's a lot of, even Spencer Knight. It's first time in Chicago starting the season, going through training camp, coming into this. The Chicago market is a lot different than most National Hockey League teams. There's expectations on the Blackhawks, whether or not they might have been at the bottom of the whole entire league barrel for the last couple of years. That's a team the NHL picks to throw in to their primetime slot in the first game of the season for good reason, because people are going to watch you. So there's a lot more eyes on you when you're playing for the Chicago Blackhawks. So there's expectations, there's pressure, there's a lot of different things that, we as fans maybe perpetuate, but also guys have to live up to it. And the resounding effect that I've seen online through the first 4 games now has been that this team has played hard, good hockey that Chicago can respect. And they went and they got themselves in the victory column against the Utah Hockey Club. They call themselves the Mammoth now. Terrible names all around. It doesn't fucking matter. What a team to go win your first game against.
It's a respectable team. It's an up and up team too. And
get that done. Get that done. Outside of their name and their marketing, colors are fine. The marketing around it rubs me the wrong way. I digress. That's a good team that you went out there and beat tonight. Take that energy and figure out how to continue on that. I don't think here's my final thought on this. Don't want to rant too long. Take the energy that you've had in those first 3 games. Look at the control that you had tonight and the restraint. I thought there was some restraint tonight from the Blackhawks. You reined it in a little bit, and you were able to effectively beat a pretty decent hockey team. If you can beat middle of the pack to, potentially contending for playoff teams, you're going to have a good season. They can do it. This is one to learn from, but bring some of that other energy you had in the first 3 games, and I think you can turn yourself into a pretty good hockey club, man. That's my final thought from today's game. I liked a lot of what I saw. I would have expected a little more, but wins are wins. Wins are wins.
W's are W's, and you will certainly take them however you can get them. In the National Hockey League, Tone, I don't really have a ton to add. I think what you said is correct, and I this team's fun. They're fun to watch. This was a different game, and I think that element of it made it enjoyable to watch. And you have a great opportunity coming up. You mentioned where this team played to begin the season. Your own home opener, Florida's cup raising, banner game, the Boston Bruins home opener. Like, you were in some big games. You got a big game against your own rival on national television on Wednesday night against the St. Louis Blues. And I think that's going to be a hell of a game for this Blackhawks team to come out. You're in prime time. It's a late slot game. And can you show up and get another win? Build off of what you built in this one here tonight on Monday. Well said, Tony. I am right there with you. My friend, it is about that time that we get to some of our habitual segments.
It's time to ruffle some feathers.
Tony, I must ask you, my friend, are you ready to ruffle anybody's feathers?
I am. I am going to ruffle some feathers here. Chicago fans always want to blame the refs for everything. But today, we saw something that was absolutely egregious. Tyler Bertuzzi got cross-checked in the face, and there was no call. I saw so many penalties. I've got to adjust the headphones here. Sorry. There were so many penalties that were uncalled on Saturday's home opener. And the Hawks just had a parade to the box. Then today, Tyler Bertuzzi takes one to the face. Obvious penalty. Uncalled. You know that puck don't lie. So what happens? Ilya Mikheyev goes up the ice, scores a goal. Hawks take a 1-0 lead. I'm not ruffling Hawks fans' feathers here. That's not my intention. But the rest of hockey fans everywhere, I don't care where you reside, East Coast, West Coast, north of the border, it's real. The refs hate the Hawks. And every time I see someone complain on that website, x.com, about how the Hawks get all these calls, I encourage you to go and watch what happened to Tyler Bertuzzi tonight and tell me that that was not a penalty. Because it was. And it was not called. So, get your feathers all up in a bunch. Watch that replay and then let me know. Ron, I'll turn it to you.
I love it. I love it, Tone. Ruffle feathers outside of the Blackhawks community. There's nothing better than that. Tony, I am going to ruffle feathers inside of the Blackhawks community, though, because I was on the X. I was on the social media boards all summer long when I was excited about a certain move that the Blackhawks made. because I was like, you know what? It's funny. I think they should have made this move. I made this move in my NHL video game because it made sense. I was like, yeah, I like this move, and everybody's,
I think I know
oh,
where this is going.
oh, he's not any good. Why are they going to get this guy? He's not going to help Connor Bedard. Blah 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 blah. I know there's receipts out there, and those people are starting to spew the other way of, wow, this guy's really good, and what a get he was. And I just want you to be truthful with yourself, because everybody that hated on Andre Burakovsky's addition over the summer, that's a quiet crowd right now. And a lot of them have flipped script in the meantime. This guy has gotten off to a hell of a start. 3 points in 4 games. He gets the game winner tonight. It's the GWG, the first GWG of the Centennial season. He's been a great addition. I sat here on these airwaves and reminded everybody that when he played with opportunity, he's playing in the top 6. He's going to play in the top 6 for this team all season long. When he plays with opportunity and good players, he puts up points. His best seasons came in Colorado when he was playing in their top 6. He's playing in the Hawks' top 6. He's going to get tons of run, and he's going to score because he's a talented player. He's just not the type of player that's going to carry a line by himself when he's buried in the bottom 6. And he's proving that right now. What a goal for him. I'm really happy for Andre Burakovsky. I like that guy a lot. I have liked that guy for a long time. It's good to see him get one tonight and it ultimately be the GWG. So to everybody over the summer that didn't like that move, I've got receipts.
Can I give you your flowers for a second here, Ronald?
Do we have to add that to the segment lists? We don't have a video for that one, though.
We don't. But you've made a couple of these calls over the past couple of years. I remember one, Ryan Donato, being a name that was, what are they doing? Why are we bringing Ryan Donato here? And you made a case for Ryan Donato. It's allergy season here. I was just sneezing. Ron's blowing his nose.
It's brutal, man.
Ryan Donato sticks out. Wyatt Kaiser, as a defenseman, sticks out as a guy that you brought up on this show. There's a couple more. Ilya Mikheyev, the guy that I just brought up a little bit ago, was someone that you sort of talked me into last year on these airwaves while we're recording and on the phone, while we're not. I could go down the line, but the Burakovsky one, I feel like it might be your coup de grace. It might be. He might be the guy. He might be the guy that, while most fans are going to sit there and say that's not a sexy name that helps out Connor Bedard, but so far this season on the top line, he's not a guy that I would have picked out entering free agency, that I would have said, or in a trade market, or anybody that I would have ever picked out to say, let's bring this guy in. You were happy with it. I don't know anybody else who was. I don't. I didn't see one person say, that's a guy we should have. So, it's not final. It's 4 games in. But I want to give you your flowers. GM Ron strikes again.
GM Ron strikes again. That's the only way I can hold the title, Tony. If I wasn't doing an effective job, I can't be a GM anymore. I'd get fired and thrown to the wayside. And so we're doing what we can here to keep the lights on as a part of it. But Andre Burakovsky, he's got the same amount of points as Connor Bedard through 4 games. So take that for what it is. Tony, let's keep this train moving, shall we?
Time to give out some stick taps.
All right, hand them out, Tone. Who's getting stick taps?
Stick taps? We're giving out stick taps? I've got to give out stick taps to our beer guy, Tony, right outside, right outside our
Yeah.
sections on the back end. He does have Budweiser. For everybody who listened to the preseason show last week, I do want to report back and let everybody know Budweiser is still available at the United Center. It's all good. It's just a couple of sections that do not any longer have Budweiser on tap. And those are your like premium bars in the 200 level, a couple of other places, but it's all good. There's nothing to worry about. Stick taps to Tony for telling me that was bullshit. We don't need to worry about this because I was having a crisis. I was having a crisis all week. And I know a couple of listeners to the show were also having a little bit of a crisis too. Like, we're going to Michelob? No. Budweiser is still available at the UC. We're good. My guy Tony, right outside of 324, has your Budweiser. He gets my stick taps. He's been serving me Budweisers the last weekend, and I mean, it's not the weekend anymore, but it's Monday. So stick taps to Tony. Ron, you got some stick taps?
Stick taps to Tony. I can't wait to see Tony. I have yet to venture out to the United Center, so
we need to get you back in the UC, Ron.
I know. I am chomping at the bit to get back in the United Center. I can't wait until it happens.
I've seen Baker Mayfield so far in the 300
I
level.
I saw that.
And I saw Shane Gillis tonight.
I saw that too. You're on just a celebrity bender right now.
You might have to follow at Tony on Tap to figure out who's in the 300 level, because there's a fucking A-list of celebrities that are just showing up in the 300 level this season.
Just the who's who, so to speak, of what is going on at the UC and who is
it's pure Hollywood. You can't even make this up.
Pure Hollywood, indeed, my friend. Tony, I am going to give out a stick tap. I've been chomping at the bit at this one. I've been sitting on this one for about 48 hours now, maybe a little bit longer even. Stick taps to Jim Blashill. I fucking love this guy.
Jim or Jeff?
Bob.
Bob Blashill?
Bob Blashill.
Bob Blashill. Let's give it to Bob Blashill.
Yes, Jeff Blashill.
Jim Bob Blashill.
Jim's his adopted brother that was put on our list here by our executive producer of the show. So we're gonna fire that guy when it's all said and done.
He gone.
The joke is, folks, that's me. At least for tonight's episode, it is. So that's on me. But Jeff Blashill, I fucking love this guy. Fucking love him, Tom. I've been stewing on it because we've already heard about him. You know, he's getting, he's emotional and, you know, being upset with officials, and he's giving it to them, and that fiery spirit that I think all Blackhawks fans want in a coach. I think something that you severely missed in the last few coaches since Joel Quenneville's departure years ago. Blashill's bringing that heat. And I'll tell you what, I think the tipping point for me was the diving over the weekend from Saturday's game. The ooh, and then the uttering of soft as he's doing it. And I was just like, yes, because this team needs that. I think when you're trying to build a new culture, you have young guys who are getting into the league, and they're learning how to play with intensity. Yes, having a development coach is important for those guys when they're young, but then having that coach that's going to light a fire under their ass is just as important. And Blashill is doing that. And you see it with this team. He's got veterans playing better than we expected that they would play after 2 seasons. He's got, you know, he's setting the tone as he's coming into training camp. Having these guys completely condition and do more than anybody could have expected. And now we've already got this guy with elite sound bites and just hand motions on the bench. Things are going good. I love where this team's heading. And I think most importantly, as he said in his own press conference after Saturday's game, talking about the importance of the process and saying, yeah, maybe the results haven't been there, right? We haven't won in these 3 games, but our process has continued to get better. The what we're doing is continuing to get better. The core fundamentals of how we play hockey is getting better. And that's what's going to lead to wins, right? It's not just about, oh, yeah, well, it's working if we win and lose. Yes, it is. But when you execute properly and everybody's committed to the same idea and is executing it at a high level, it's going to translate to a better process that's going to result in more fun hockey and more competitive hockey games this year, Tony, like we've been talking about here. What a first win. And I love Coach Blashill. This guy has got me fired up. So stick taps to him for getting Rod's adrenaline levels over hockey fired up this weekend a little bit.
I love it, and I was hoping that we would get into a little bit of Jeff Blashill discussion here, Ron. And you
didn't want to talk about Jim Blashill, though, huh?
No, I didn't want to talk about Jim Blashill, but I did want to talk about Jeff. There were a couple of things today that kind of surprised me. So, number one is your morning skate lines and what they mean. And that's something that I think that, the Blackhawks press coverage has had a little bit of trouble reading into and how things are looking. You wake up, you look at Ben Pope's tweets, you see what the lines are in the morning skate, and you kind of just draw assumptions as a Blackhawks fan of what you're going to see on the ice tonight. Then you get to the game, and all of a sudden, the guy who was not on a line, Artem Levshunov, tonight in the lineup. Lucas Reichel, who was on a line, not in the lineup. So there was some acknowledgement from this, from the Blackhawks press corps. Ben Pope tweets 5 hours ago, I'm still getting the hang of what to read into and what not to read into with Jeff Blashill's line rushes and other indications to figure out the lineup. I think my morning skate guesses will get more accurate as the season progresses. And then Mario Tirabassi over at CHGO says, same. Blashill isn't the same open book as the previous few coaches. A little bit of gamesmanship here. I mean, he's a little bit smarter than some of what the other coaches. He's thrown off the beat writers. That's awesome. Then I saw another one today. I'm trying to find it here. I think it was from Brooke Lofo over at Hockey Writers. This team is responsible for its own morale. I love that because they are. If you win, you're happy. If you lose, you're pissed off, just like the fans. You are responsible for your own outcomes. That's not just hockey. That's life. Go make it happen. If Jeff Blashill's instilling those kind of messages within these kids at this age, I think that's a good thing. Ron, I think that's a good thing. Be responsible. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. That's how you teach winning. I also love what I've seen in the early going from Jeff Blashill. So that's a good stick tap right there.
That's a hell of a way to clean it up, sir. Words of wisdom, not only about hockey, but about life from Tony Marchese on these airwaves tonight. Tone, we look to what's on tap next. The Blackhawks have 2 more games during the, I guess we'll call it the heart of the week, but they will play a 3rd game come Sunday. 2 of these games are at home. They will see Anaheim on that Sunday game. That's a 6:00 start on CHSN.
One of those great 6:00 starts.
One of those great 6:00 starts. But it's a 7:30 start on Friday against the Vancouver Canucks. And sandwiched in between those 2 home games and their win tonight is the aforementioned Wednesday night matchup in St. Louis. That's an 8:30 start time. Probably will be closer to 9:00 because it's the second game of the TNT double header. So, Tony, October 15th, Wednesday, 8:30, probably again, 9 o'clock against the Blues on TNT. Friday at home, 7:30 start against the Vancouver Canucks on CHSN, and one of those great 6 o'clock starts on Sunday the 19th against the Anaheim Ducks, also on CHSN. So some exciting games coming up here in the near future for the Blackhawks. Certainly teams that are, in my opinion, beatable. The Blues, I think, are a great test, as are the Canucks. I think the Ducks is a little bit more of apples to apples. That'll be also the first time that Joel Quenneville returns to the United Center in quite some time. So that will be a fun note that we will keep an eye on, but we will likely be back on these airwaves. I shouldn't even say likely. We will be back on these airwaves in some way, shape, or form between now and then. Get ready for the weekend games, talking about potentially what happens on Wednesday, so on and so forth. So we look forward to you guys joining us for that as well. Tony, it's great when the Blackhawks get wins, but the first one of a Centennial season is pretty cool and tough, if you ask me. A 3-1 victory that you got to experience in person, and we got to talk about here on the Four Feathers podcast. Tone, what do you say? Let's go Hawks?
Let's go Hawks.